Blazing Saddles' most loved line was a mistake. Blazing Saddles, directed by Mel Brooks and released in 1974, is a satirical Western comedy starring Cleavon Little and Gene Wilder. Despite some conflicts with executives, the picture was positively received by both viewers and critics. Let's take a deep dive into this renowned and popular comedy to learn some behind-the-scenes trivia. Warner Brothers didn't think the movie would be well received. Warner Brothers was initially concerned that Mel Brooks would fail to live up to the producer's legend. Furthermore, early screenings of the film were poorly received, leading executives to become even more concerned that no one would find the film funny at all. Regardless of the early reactions to the picture, Brooks was convinced that the general public would find it amusing, and all they needed to do was release it. Warner Brothers did so uncomfortably, and they were relieved to discover that they'd been incorrect. Alex Karras was quite the athlete. Alex Karras, who portrays the immensely muscular and fairly dim-witted character Mongo in the film, used to be a wrestler before becoming an actor. Karras had previously played in the NFL for an astounding 12 seasons, making the All-Pro team 9 times and being named to the NFL All-Decade team in the 1960s. In addition, he was a 4-time Pro Bowler. He explored acting after leaving the Detroit Lions, receiving his first role on the cast of Webster. Richard Pryor was almost Sheriff Bart. Initially, Mel Brooks was bent on casting Richard Pryor in the role of Sheriff Bart. Brooks adored the comic, calling him the most blessed with talent. Nonetheless, Pryor was a highly controversial figure, known for his raunchy material and a severe addiction problem that nearly killed him. Regardless, Brooks desired him for the role, but Warner Brothers recommended Cleavon Little. He granted Little the role after hearing him read the lines. Declined by the Duke. Brooks intended to incorporate iconic Western actor John Wayne in the picture as a delightful surprise since he was filming a satire of the Western genre. The two allegedly met by happenstance on the Warner Brothers lot, with Wayne informing Brooks that he had heard about the film. As a result, Brooks composed a brief piece for Wayne to speak in the film. Wayne, however, denied the offer, stating, "Nah, I can't do a movie like that, but I'll be the first in line to see it." Slim Pickens was a real rodeo performer. Some of the actors took their roles very seriously to the point of method acting. Slim Pickens was one of those performers, playing Taggart, the leader of the gang that's persistently attempting to frighten the inhabitants of Rock Ridge from their village. Before he became an actor, he was a genuine rodeo performer. Pickens slept outdoors like a cowboy during shooting to get into character with his Winchester at his side. The film is chock full of references. Mel Brooks, being the hilarious genius that he is, ensured that every phrase had a purpose, whether it was to elicit emotion or have an underlying message. One example is when Mongo rides his horse into town and a Mexican guy exclaims, "Mongo, Santeria." This is a brilliant allusion to Mongo Santa Maria, a well-known Cuban jazz artist, and it's possible that most audience members missed it. Did you catch the producer's song? There's a reference to Brooks' earlier picture, The Producers, when Hedley Lamar and his men ride into the phony town erected by the sheriff and Waco Kid at the conclusion of the film. As they ride into town, the camera pans over to Lily von Stupp and some German soldiers who are singing a drinking song. You probably wouldn't notice until you watch The Producers because it's the same song Gene Wilder and Zero Mostel perform with Kenneth Mars in The Producers. The film increased the sale of Raisinets. Harvey Korman comes to a halt at the concession stand towards the conclusion of the film. There he makes an unusual purchase of Raisinets, which Brooks believes resulted in an increase in product sales for the film. Brooks told Playboy in 1975, "We mentioned Raisinets in Blazing Saddles, and now the company sends me a gross of them every night. A slew of Raisinets. Doesn't sound like the worst deal in the world." Brooks kept the promise of the film a secret from the theme song singer. Frankie Lane, who performed the theme song for Blazing Saddles, had no idea what he was getting himself into when he agreed to work on the project with Brooks. For more than 75 years, Frankie Lane was a singer and lyricist who felt he was singing for a real Western rather than a parody. Mel was cautious not to inform Lane that the picture was a comedy because he was afraid it might affect his performance. Gene Wilder wasn't the first pick for the Waco Kid. Although many consider Wilder's performance as the Waco Kid to be one of his most memorable, he wasn't the first in line for the part. Brooks first offered the post to late-night television presenter Johnny Carson, who declined. The position was then accepted by Gig Young. However, it turns out that he struggled to portray the inebriated Waco Kid due to his own drinking, and Wilder took his place. Brooks received the ultimate compliment. While fans from all over the world sent Mel Brooks fan mail about how much they enjoyed Blazing Saddles, one person in particular had a profound effect on the director. He was anxiously waiting for criticism after learning that famed director Alfred Hitchcock had viewed his picture. Hitchcock got in contact with Brooks to tell him how much he enjoyed it. Despite the fact that the two filmmakers had polar different styles, Hitchcock claimed to have appreciated the plot and production. A misunderstanding during casting. Brooks had Madeline Kahn in mind when he created the character of Lily Von Stupp because he believed she'd be great for the part and had a solid knowledge of humor. Brooks asked if he could see her legs when she came in to read for the role. She said, "Oh, so you're that kind of guy." Brooks noted that the persona was meant to be a satire of Marlene Dietrich and hence required certain legs. She was aware, yet she warned him, no touching. Throwing away the notes. When Brooks initially showed the picture to Warner Brothers chief executive Ted Ashley, he wasn't impressed. Ashley grabbed Brooks aside after the screening and gave him a hard talking to. He asked that Brooks remove the racist epithet, the bean incident, the horse-punching sequence, and the dubious interplay between Lily Von Stupp and Black Bart. "Great," answered Brooks, "they've all left." Of course, instead of following instructions, he ripped up the notes as if the discussion had never occurred. The title underwent several changes. Although the writers struggled with many aspects of the writing process, naming the film was a major one. 10X was supposed to be the title in honor of Malcolm X, but it was altered to Black Bart instead. However, the authors remained unsatisfied and regarded Purple Sage to be one of several potential options. Then, while taking a shower, Brooks remembered Blazing Saddles, which his wife and everyone else enjoyed. There was a dispute over a character's name. When Mel Brooks came up with the moniker Hedley Lamar, he thought he had found the ideal nemesis for Blazing Saddles. Of course, his character's name was eerily similar to that of Hedy Lamarr, a well-known actress who had worked for MGM from the 1930s to the 1950s. Hedy Lamarr was irritated by how similar Brooks' antagonist's name was to her own, which Harvey Korman joked would result in a lawsuit. He was correct, and they were able to reach an out-of-court settlement.